let's get down to business. This talk is about ADHD in games industry. It is present in every industry on the planet, but well, as we here all work in the games industry, it's especially important for us, and it has some specific implications on how people work. So I will try to answer a bunch of questions listed here, as in why we talk about it, what is it, where you can see it and spot it in people who know about their condition or don't know about their condition, and how we take on it. What do we do? How do we tackle it ourselves and as managers inside the companies, even future managers, of course. If you stay in the industry long enough, you might see yourself leading people. First of all, about me. My name is Borys. B stands for the name of my father, which is also Borys. I joined the industry next year. I'm going to celebrate 10 years. I've been working in QA as a start, and after 6 years, well, I exited that company to join the current one as a business development manager. I work with indie games with 15 studios across Europe, mostly pitching games, making deals, and making sure that the teams are happy. And well, it brings me happiness too. I was suspected ADHD since 2018 when I came into the management role as a business development director in my previous company. When it became apparent that I had certain accommodations for my condition that were not suitable for other people, that were too complicated or complex, and I started researching, like, why is this? Why what works for me doesn't work for anyone else? And it turned out that, hey, some of the things that are my accommodations are quite specific. ADHD diagnosis I only received this year, right before GDC, where I got my first medication. It was the best GDC ever, the best conference, most productive thing I ever did in my life. And then, well, it became apparent that yes, it works for me. And I started to study. I started to industry-wide research to survey specifically ADHD professionals. Part of this talk is based on the findings, and well, talk to me after. You can get the anonymized access to the results of the experience of the people to see how we adjust as a community. I was born in Kharkiv, Ukraine. I can't come back there, so I live in Munich, Germany now, and I travel to a bunch of conferences every year. And I'm quite happy to speak here. It's my second time, so thank you everyone for coming, and thank you GIC to accommodate me. Disclaimer before I start, I'm not a doctor. This is not a medical advice. If you feel like you or your friends have something to work through, they might have ADHD, you might show them this presentation, but also say them to go to the professional, go to general practitioner, or better, psychiatrist that works with ADHD people to get a diagnosis, get medicine, or other ways to cope with the condition. Self-help is great, but it's not enough due to the nature of the condition. I will explain it further. A couple of people helped me with the preparation of this material and the survey I mentioned. This is, well, this beautiful doctor of medicine, Franz Lobkowitz, who diagnosed my condition in ADHD Center in Munich. It was my colleague, Dan Pearson. He used to work as a game journalist for the 10 years, and we co-presented it internally in the company. It was a success on the company-wide scale, and I wanted to bring it to you. There was many contributors throughout the industry who, well, gave input, participated in the survey, and I will be happy to get your input after as well. So going into the meat of it, is ADHD real? Yes, absolutely. It is real. It is a real medical condition. There is signs of it that you can see under different procedures. Why talk about it? Well, it's quite an interesting chain of events that lead me to it, but October is ADHD Awareness Month since 2004, I think, where Organization America established it as a day to celebrate neurodiversity and particularly ADHD. So I'm extremely humbled to, well, present specifically in this month. There are a couple of organizations in the industry-wide, so some of them you can find that HD, ADHD in games, neurodiversity from the Ubisoft, and as you see this butterfly, it's the official symbol of the ADHD. Well, not official, it's the most widely used one. To give you some context, you see the little infinity symbol. This is the overall neurodiversity spectrum symbol, symbolizing how there is an infinite amount of differences in how our brain functions, how it develops, and what are the implications on, well, how we live our lives and how we experience our experiences. The butterfly, though, specifically for ADHD, symbolizes as in our thoughts tend to fly from one thing to another. Sometimes you might see it in yourself. You'll find jumping from topic to topic, losing a train of thought, or maybe just losing the interest to what you're doing. Hopefully, I will not lose interest to this lecture as it goes. So it is available to use, and it is a great metaphor, I think. What is ADHD, though, from the factual perspective? How it develops, how we find it, and how we describe it. But first, a bit of a context and glossary. This is an approximate map of neurodiversity. You can skip the pictures, by the way. I will have a QR code you can scan and gain access to those slides after. The complexity and intricacy and interconnectedness of the neurodiverse spectrum of how different people perceive, how different things they can experience in their life is immense. And ADHD is just a small subset of it. But it can correlate with many things, and it can be complex. I want to, though, include several terminology things that might pop up so you know the context. So there is a neurotype, which is some neural pattern in your brain that exhibits certain traits maybe or not. There is a neurodivergent person, which is different from the neuronormal, that is, exhibits something that is not considered a psychological norm, like deviation from any normative behavior that can be exhibited of those and hundreds of others things that, well, manifest in real life as behaviors or traits of behaviors. Many neurodiversity conditions are correlated with autism, with ADHD, with dyslexia, with learning disabilities, with epilepsy, and other many types that might not even been, well, found in you, but can be manifested. I explain you later. Attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. It is, by the foundation of it, mostly caused by genetics. It is a hereditary condition. It is highly likely that if your ancestors, if one of your parents had it, then you will have it. It is not something, it is something that can be caused by environmental factors. It can be something that's caused by like trauma in childhood, like a brain trauma. But mostly it works as in several genes in your sequence are responsible for neuromediators, like dopamine primarily, that is not sufficient in a non-medicated condition. So it is basically you cannot enjoy what you're doing as you do it. And this is a big problem for many other functions that is important in professional life. It is characterized with difficulty maintaining focus. It's impulse control, it's organization. You might find yourself either completely disorganized in a messy apartment, or it's tidy. It's like shining and everything is at place. There's usually no in between. And of course, I will not speak that. Usually it's many things that can manifest in that, even in your file systems especially. It's a time management. It's how things get done in the last moment. It's how you can postpone the thing until it's 6 in the morning on the day you have a presentation, and you like, I better add this slide and maybe remove all the dots or keep them, I don't know. And it's inconsistent emotional regulation. You might find yourself get angry, you might find yourself get sad. It's not a bipolar disease, it's just how your brain is confused of what to feel right now. And it also can be mitigated with some practices, but mostly it is what you experience in your regular state of mind. Again, what is ADHD? There is many different things that exhibit that, they intersect. There was that thing that people called ADD, attention deficit disorder. I want to say it's not a thing anymore in a classification because, well, they dropped hyperactive for adults because they're usually not as hyperactive as kids, but it tends to be that like physical hyperactivity and that like mental hyperactivity, as your mind's actually hyperactive, is hard to define and quantify. So it's just now all encompassed are under ADHD. So just to give you some more simple representation of it, and you might know the comic ADHD Alien. Sadly, it's not issuing anymore, but it was an interesting project from an artist trying to show a bit of a more unusual things of how ADHD is manifested. So inattentive type is a type that would maybe look at the window when you're in a class and the teacher is telling something, but you're in your own mind. You're like have things with that was formerly ADD, attention deficit especially. It's a hyperactive where impulse control is a problem, when you might find yourself suddenly coming to a scream when you speak, and then not realizing until someone tells, hey, you're screaming, we were just talking, right? And the combined type, well, that's where those traits manifests more or less, but it's not given. There's also different intensity of those. It might be mild, it might be severe. It also requires different types of accommodations for each person. It might be decreasing with age as you gain experience, as you gain your own mental models and practices where you can manage that. But of course, it is many axes on which this condition can develop. So to give you a bit of a representation in how does it work, imagine it as a set of switches. And you either can start a thing. It's an executive dysfunction where you maybe know all the steps, it's all breaking down. You have the best Jira ticket in the world that says, this is how you do it. You look at it and you just can't do it. Or you start doing something and you know that it should be done any moment now. And you keep doing it and you keep doing it and you keep perfecting it until, well, something breaks it out. Maybe the dog barks on the outside and you realize you've been in it for 4 hours. Again, not now switch. You know, like this deadline is in a week and a task quite trivial. And you start maybe doing it now, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe next evening until it's too late. And then the switch is now. And no matter how sleepy you are, how hungry you are, it's like, it's do or die. It also correlates with insomnia. So for people with ADHD, it's hard to keep schedules, hard to keep routines for some of us. So there is not such time as a bedtime. It's not such thing as a morning routine for some of us. It's basically starting over from the scratch every day and trying to just keep your things in familiar places so you enter a room and you sort of know what to do. And talking or zoning out, yeah, it's completely good in a casual conversation. I hope I will not be zoning out too much as a speaker here. But this can be continued from many other behaviors that we will describe. Just know that it is something to consider. So from a legal standpoint, at least in Canada, USA, UK, and Australia, it's a legally protected disability. You are indeed considered mentally impaired, where you might not be eligible for some types of work. Luckily, industry is accommodating in the games, and actually it might be beneficial, and it is extremely beneficial in certain types of work to have people of all walks of life and all kinds of neurotypes to make sure your game is accommodating and can be experienced and enjoyed for as many people as possible. But yeah, it all comes from a physically different brain. It is a statement with a little star. It might be overrepresented in the industry. One of the hypotheses I was researching with my survey is that, well, games are designed to retain attention, to reward you constantly, and to keep you in a flow state, which is something that in like real life activities is usually really hard or almost impossible to achieve for a person with ADHD. You just can't stay on a task. And for me, when I found out games and had like a Sega Saturn or PlayStation 1, and I found out that, hey, I can sit in place and enjoy a thing for a really, really long time, it was life-changing. And I think as we approach now the time when this topic is well-researched, when the diagnostic procedures are well-documented, we find out that there is significantly more neurodivergent people overall in the population. But I think, especially in the industry, just so attractive of a career, and it's just so happy moments in your life that you just want to be a part of it. So let's see. If you are a researcher or you know researchers who want to pick up this data set that I have and continue the research and maybe figure it out at some point, be my guest, contact me later. It leads to shorter lifespans usually, because of course by lacking sleep, by missing deadlines, or maybe as we will discover later, experience side effects of drugs that is prescribed to manage this condition, you will miss up on many things in life, like sufficient nutrition or enough sleep, or maybe depending on how accommodating your workplace, you'll be switching jobs often, or you'll be prone to accidents due to inattention. And this is all things you have to consider. Even maintaining relationships might be hard because, well, if your spouse or husband or girlfriend or boyfriend want attention and you just cannot give it to them, it might not be something that you're willing to bear with. So things happen. It is characterized by many things like mental exhaustion. Usually it's the one where you try so hard, when you think that you know things and you're a professional and you on it for many, many years, but for some reason things just don't work out as you want. And it is actually interesting for the next part where sometimes outside it seems like people with ADHD don't try hard enough, you know? But it's quite the opposite. They try really, really hard, and sometimes really harder than neurotypical people, because this is just the way it is for us to perform on the same level. It leads to less work satisfaction, of course, because, well, with a broken dopamine system, you just cannot be satisfied. Sometimes what's a win for someone and a cause for a big party and celebration for you is just another day at work when you did your best. It's a feeling of guilt, it's an inability to plan, it's when you realize that I haven't had a vacation in a couple of years, and when you have a vacation, you don't know what to do with it. You just sit at home, play games, and enjoy your life as the way you can enjoy it. So it is a highly topic of high attention from mostly managers, from people who work with you and people who you work with. And I will tell more about it on how to actually mitigate those. What is not ADHD? Well, as you probably already know from the last block, it's not a fun thing to have, but it's also not a superpower. It is not a Rain Man, it's not a super calculator computer person. It is not a thing that gives you certain ability where you excel what others lag behind. Comes with certain benefits. It gives you certain things on attention where you can notice things that other might not. But it also requires years and years of training, so it's highly specific for everyone. It's not specific for any age, any ethnicity, any gender, any group in the world. It is distributed throughout whole the population, and there is evolutionary factors to that I will revisit later. It is also not well defined. As you saw, the cluster of symptoms, it is a broad spectrum of things that might be developed in the brain. It is not curable. It is unless we go to some cyberpunk dimension when we can insert chips in our brain that will manage this function for us. But well, in our purely biological and the current understanding of medicine, it is not something you can fix permanently. As I already mentioned, it's not laziness. It's not a character trait that you can overpower with a sheer will. You will have to find other ways to do it. And it's not a lack of willpower. Of course, it's quite the opposite. You have to expend willpower on even trivial tasks like getting your backpack ready for the morning. So let's talk about how it is actually manifest in a workplace, where you can spot it, where you maybe experience it, and as managers, what areas to watch specifically where people might need additional support. It's one that is really the most devastating to processes at work and especially in game development. It's an executive function disorder, EFD. And as I mentioned, you might want to do it. You might know how to do it. You might have everything you need at your disposal, best PC, best software, skills, and years of experience. But you will not be able to press the button and start. And this is something where medicine helps the most, where you have the additional dopamine that will reward you for starting, will reward you for succeeding as you go, and will reward you for completing the task. But this is the thing where some of the recommendations like regular check-ins with your managers can help to make sure that even tiny thing that you might have, like a little gap, little X, little blank, white unknown, might not allow you to start. So if you pinpoint that thing and ask even like person next to you, hey, I have a problem, I don't know where to create this document that I need to start working on. And someone externally will just say, well, why not here? And then you're good to go. It's distractibility. And this is unfortunately the nature of our modern productivity and collaboration, where we have to use many apps with many notifications, many information streams that is constantly out there in the work hours. I find myself often at work during the day having to see all the red dots, all the notifications. I have to stay informed because, well, that might be crucial to decisions I'm making during the day, or information I'm sharing with my clients. And then after the day is over and everyone went home, I'm like, right, no distractions. I can back to work and work for 4 more hours because, well, there's no more distractions, but it's already 12 and it's time to go home. So the only way you can do it, it's put the not disturb on your phone, on your watch, on your computer. Everything is there if you want to see it, but do not let the algorithm, the machine, the default settings make this decision for you, because otherwise you will not be able to resist. It's masking, and it's an interesting one, especially for people who are not yet diagnosed or for people who haven't yet shared that they might experience some of those things. It's your best efforts to appear normal, to not get your guard down, to desperately try to maintain attention, to try not to think about the blue elephant. And you usually try to say, like talking with your manager, hey, had you got all that on a Zoom call? Is everything clear? And you're like, I haven't been listening for the last 5 minutes, but yeah, sure. Let's follow up on that. So don't be afraid. Of course, if you feel stressed, it is like you have to share it with people when you feel it's the right moment. It's best to talk with a specialist as well, with friends, with family, to make sure you're self-comfortable with this condition. You are comfortable with sharing and you want to be helped from the outside. It sometimes results in, of course, quite a big exhaustion. It is exhausting to pretend you're someone else because, well, ADHD is part of you. It is who you are. And I myself, well, I wouldn't want to just magically get rid of it because I would be a different person. And this is not what I consider right for myself. It also might result in you being alone in a room after the day is gone, and you're suddenly bursting with joy. You feel like, hey, I'm home now. Things are great. I feel energized. I will dance. I will scream. I will sing. But at work, you're trying to keep quiet and not let this thing, not letting your authentic self to be represented. And well, it's never good. Talk with each other. Be kind with each other. It usually helps. Share it. It is indeed. Even purpose of this talk is to normalize it, to give people a chance to see what kind of problems you experience, I experience, and those who not, to know that we experience it. Quite connected is rejection-sensitive dysphoria, RSD. Oh my God, I missed the slide, sorry. It's time blindness. It's when, I already mentioned, you can work in a task and you don't know how much time you spend on it. When your manager asks, so how long did it took? I haven't been watching the time, sorry. You might be doing it at night and just go to sleep when you feel sleepy, but then realize, hey, it's been 4 a.m. It's not great, and it's usually comes with things, even in your past, when you try to remember what year it was, when I finished the school, when is the birthday of my mom, when 9/11 happened. This one is easy. So it usually comes with missing the deadlines, with coming off certain excuses to yourself, why you didn't found the time, why you were preoccupied with different things. Because, well, retroactively, it's easy to explain, but sometimes you just can't remember or forgot about this thing at all. Keep notes, keep journals, try to do to-do lists, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. What do you want to achieve? Keeping them in a place that is accessible to you, that you can find later, that you can find from your phone, from your computer, from the internet, to remember things, to know that, hey, there is a couple of steps to achieve, but there's no perfect thing to fight that. This is just how things is. Coming back to rejection-sensitive dysphoria. It is a fear of being rejected. It actually leads to masking. That if you say and share your condition to someone, or share the things you've been experiencing, the difficulties you have, you'll be criticized, you'll be embarrassed. You will be compared to others. You will go to the arguments about, but you known you had to do it, why you didn't do it? This is, again, comes with the building of trust. This is the only way to do it. It's to be together with people and realize that you're a team, you're in this together, and you have to play to your strengths. But even though this one, among all the others, is the least researched, so it's not a hard to find, but it is a thing that I wanted to share with you anyway, because, well, it is something that I experienced myself, and I know the others too. So, as I already said, difficulty planning. You will have to have a robust systems. You will have to have calendars at hand. I even have to have 3 monitors in my workplace to keep all the things in sight. Because if I switch the tab and put something behind, it no longer exists for me. Some moments later, I can finish my work, close the screens, and oh, this thing, I forgot I was doing it. So, of course, you will have to work with that. You will have to get help with that. You will have to have a co-producer maybe who watches those particular things if you're on a project, if you're trying to manage it. It's missing spoken instructions. So as we already discussed with your manager, if you ask if you get all that, ask them, please, can you submit this in writing? If there is a specific deadline when I need to deliver it on Thursday at noon, please write those bullet points there, because if you write them in Slack and it will be several weeks after, it will be impossible to find. So this is also comes with, even in a hotel, when they tell you, hey, we have breakfast at the sauna is on a and it's good that it's sometimes written on a card, but it is just a thing. You will have to ask your managers and your supervisors to write things down for you. And well, unless you write them down yourself in a moment. It's emotional regulation. It is especially hard when you are on the verge of crucial decision for your team. If you're on a family dinner, if you're in a certain space that infuses discomfort, you might experience quite a roller coaster of emotions throughout it, and you might not be able to regulate the thing in the moment. So it's okay. You must know that it's okay to come later and say, sorry, I feel different about it now, and you will just have to try to manage it. Like mindfulness helps. Trying to, relax for a moment, close your eyes and say, I need a moment, and then come back to it like 30 seconds later. It's object impermanence. It's especially crucial in games industry, as in object can be anything from a thing in game engine to asset on a cloud drive, to a file on your computer's disk, to your business cards or anything else. It will be hard because those things are used by everyone, but usually what helps is a robust bookmarks in your browser. It is something where you build your own system that works for you on how you find things, but there's no silver bullet. And the advice for someone who works with people with ADHD, that is not, please ask them to not touch your stuff, because there's high likeliness that you will not find it later. I myself, I have a couple of file systems on my Google Drive in my company. I just mark them with my initials, BD, and everyone knows that this file is managed by this person, so it belongs there, and you have to ask before you cleaned up this part of the drive. It is interrupting. It's oftentimes comes in a group meetings, in even casual conversations. You will feel the urge to say something, and it will be so strong that you may come off rude, but you will feel that you explode if you're not say it right in a moment, because this thing, it's on your mind and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it just spills out. It is a thing that you can just tell people, hey, I want to say something. But of course, in different companies, it might come off as rude. So I don't know. Sometimes I do it. Sometimes on conferences, of course, I meet hundreds and hundreds of people, and I might interrupt some conversations. So if you are this person, I'm sorry. It's physical hyperactivity. It's fidgeting. It's trying to click the pen, click the button, click your fingers, or like restless feet syndrome, when you just jittery and try to do it. It's usually fine, and especially if you found one of those little fidgets that you like. It helps to concentrate. It's actually not distracts. I mean, it distracts others if it's clicky, but if you found silent one, that's the best thing. I actually had like a little metal sphere that with tactile surface that I can just spin around, touch, and well, it's silent. I can carry it in my pocket. And then you will have this additional tactile simulation sensation that you can focus on, that will help you to focus on other things. But interesting fact on that is that try to not make it something connected to language processing. Try to make it sound tactile, because if you think that, well, I feel jittery, I might read my Twitter in a meeting, you can only process one thread of spoken or written language at a time, either or. So yes, try to find things that help you to concentrate, to stay in a moment. The most interconnected one with everything, I already mentioned, it's memory problems. It is one thing that I forgot to add actually to the slide, so I had to add after all those. I already told you about a few of those. It's keeping a calendar. I have in my Google Calendar all the dates of all my birthdays of friends, of family, because otherwise I find myself hard to remember those if they're even after 31 years of being alive. So, what are the ways to work with it except for trying harder? Easy one. Please, I see the question. I see the question?
No, I thought it is the time for question.
Oh, no, sorry. Sorry for misunderstanding. I'm answering those, but if you have others, let me know. Yep, it's them. There's a bunch of things that you can get a prescription for. And frankly, so far, it's the only prescription drugs that are really working. There's different types of those, but mostly it differs from location. Ones that legal in the US are not the ones that we get here. It doesn't mean that certain locale has better substances. It just means that your experience may differ, and if you cannot use the drugs that you can get as prescription for in Europe doesn't work for you, then there's still a chance that those in the US might work, but it will be quite challenge to get those from your doctor here unless you're like in a big worldwide clinic that can in fact make an exception and try to file for a prescription that will be valid on an EU soil, and vice versa. So as you usually might know, in the US drugs are stronger. Not everyone can medicate, as in there's infinite amount of neurodevelopmental patterns. There is an infinite amount of unpredictability on how this particular substance will work, what dosage is right, and where is the line. Some people might try for years because, well, you have to take the drug for at least a couple of weeks to find out, is it working for you? First of all, the one I'm taking, the one that most of I know are taking, it's stimulants. It's Adderall, Ritalin, lisdexamfetamine, that is branded as V-Vans or L-Vans in Europe. As in amphetamine, I think it's pretty clear what it is for most of you. But lisdex is a chemical coating of the amphetamine salts that slows down the release of amphetamine in your system. So as it impacts usually the reward mechanisms in your brain, your ability to be active and engage with things, the lisdex slows it down to 10 to 14 hours depending on person. So if you take one of those, Adderall is a like mix of 4 amphetamine salts as well, while lisdex is just one. But they all basically have the same mechanism. They have an activity period. It can be short, like 3-4 hours, where you have to take several of those throughout the day, or it can be long, where you just pop one in the morning for the rest of your productive life. If you want to, of course, treat your ADHD. It helps to focus. It helps executive function. It keeps you engaged. It maybe even help you to be an interesting person in conversation when usually you're quite within yourself. But it can be exhausting. When I arrived to the GAC yesterday, it was my birthday on Friday, so I popped the full one on Friday. Then I lied in a bed for half an hour, got up, and at 4 in the morning went straight here. So I was without sleep for about 44 hours. And the good thing about this medicine, well, as in the Panzer Chocolate, you don't feel tired, you don't feel hungry, you feel quite engaged, happy, and, well, enjoying yourself. So this is a downside, of course, that, oh, I'm in danger, probably of dying young. Hopefully it will not come to this. It's controlled substance. Usually you can't travel outside the EU with it, and the ones that you get in Europe, you can't travel to US with it, and vice versa. So you really have to carry on your person the piece of paper that says, this is indeed for me because I need it. The jury is still out on that one, but it's addictive. Because during the days where you've been taking it for months and you decide to stop for a week because you maybe have a vacation, you'll probably feel that, did I live all my life before like this? I'm miserable. I can't do anything. I can't get up. I just sit down on this chair and, well, I can't do anything without my pills. Let's see. Hopefully I'll retire early and become a millionaire or something and can stop taking those. It's non-stimulant medication. They come in different flavors. They affect neurochemistry of the brain, basically trying to fix it without getting you addicted. It's less intensive. It's something that has different set of side effects, like, well, depression, hallucinations, weight gain, while stimulants have quite the opposite, like weight loss, because, well, you just forgot to eat, because things are so interesting. Those are in the minority of the drugs that people use, but some can only use those, because stimulants has also, like, they're not suitable for people with heart issues, they're not suitable for a certain subset of the people, so yeah, that might be your option, if not the first one. And supplementary one that can be used with both to either counteract the side effects or maybe treat other things that developed is antidepressants and anti-anxiety medicine. Because, well, stimulants tend to increase in anxiety, non-stimulants tend to increase the likeliness of depression. So as you can see, it's this life after 25 when you have already a little set of pills that grow in every year. And especially with neurodevelopmental conditions, you might need those to function. Don't write those down, don't look for them in the internet, ask your doctor, you'll figure out it with them. So, how to adapt? And should you adapt? Well, as you can see, you only live once, so might as well have a good life. Drugs are well and good, but there are other things to do as in the workplace and as your manager. This is the heaviest slide. I don't know why I added so much text. That was a mistake on my side. It's the sense of belonging. It's a sense of trust, sense of acceptance that is the most important things in a team. And it's the more important as if you experience the things that we discussed so far. So you will be able to openly talk with your peers, with your managers, with your bosses, with people who trust you, rely on you, and wish you all the better things. And, well, finding out that things are indeed like this might take years, but hopefully you will stick with the team long enough to find yourself at home, to find yourself accepted. And this is the strongest factor that I will recommend to you all, no matter if you're the person who suffers from ADHD or you know the person who experiences those things. This is what's the most important for them and for us and for the whole industry, I think. Don't interrupt the flow. This is one of those things where, of course, there's downsides of people being too much on single task. But if it's an important task and you work in the same office, maybe in open space, desk to desk, try to communicate to other people that if you have your core hours, your focus time, when you try your best to get things done, maybe just raise a little red flag on your table. Maybe like get a headphones and say, do not interrupt on both sides. This is the thing that will let you be the most focused and get the most results out of your day, of your time. Get a noise cancellate headphones. Try to talk with your family, maybe get a separate room, maybe get a separate office right outside your apartment that you can rent, just a single room with a desk and a computer that locks on and lock, where you just come to work. This is crucial, especially when you have a higher intensity condition, when even a chatter in two rooms somewhere in the office, or someone turning on the coffee machine and you can hear it throughout the halls, will get you out of balance. But well, as pandemic is over, more and more of us required to be in the office. So just talking with your IT and asking for the top tier noise cancellate headphones will be quite a big add to your productivity. For you yourself and for people you contact with, try to not get angry, not get frustrated. Of course, it's always hard. Corporate wants us to deliver, and that's what we should try to do, to deliver. And it's not always possible, and of course, we're not in the facility that can be accommodating to everyone. Sometimes it's do or look for other job. So it is important to set at least the terms on how you can do it, how to get things done, how to not get your manager angry and say to them, look, I will do it today. I feel distressed and I will not sleep until it's done, but sorry, I missed the deadline today. Like, it might happen again, but I just want you to believe me on this one, and we try to work this out. It's regular constructive feedback. It is something where external accountability really helps. Even if you have a person on the same task as you or a manager, you can send to your manager a message in the morning and say, hey, I want to achieve this today. It might not even require a response. They might just like put a thumbs up emoji on this one. But this is already an external accountability when you set this to someone that you want to do it. It can be your wife in the morning, like, hey, honey, I'm going to work and I will do this. Let's talk how it turned out in the evening and see if it was really done. But this is indeed also a feedback on your task, on your timeliness, to better understand why you're doing things. This is also a huge motivating factor on like actually starting things. When you know it's important, when you know it's important for that department, and you know that this task is blocking someone, this will allow you a sense of ownership, a sense of that what you do is important and not just another check mark in a huge list of checkboxes. Right, we're approaching the end of the presentation. I still want to give you some questions, but here's the fun part. I did the survey, as I already mentioned. I wanted to screen the game developers, people who work in the game industry for certain factors. I needed 600 respondents to have a 99 statistical analysis confidence factor, like 99%, it's quite confident factor, based on the overall population of all the game developers in English-speaking Western world. It's the EU, it's the US, it's Australia, it's UK, it's Canada, and countries of Eastern Europe. So I only managed to get 75. So take some of those graphs with a grain of salt. They are not representative of the population of game developers, nor of the population as a whole, but this data set is, well, available if you want to take a look. So the demographics of the respondents. As you can see, many people who suspect or have a diagnosed ADHD are within the 25-34 years bracket. They are, well, millennials. Usually it comes with the advancements of the last couple of years when we know more about ADHD and those people having an access and probably Twitter accounts to this information, to be a part of discourse and to see the discourse going on, want to find out about themselves. Slightly less is 35-44. Usually people who already experienced enough to know that, yep, that's how I do things. And it's less 45-54, so and quite at least same amount is 18-24, just because, well, it's not as much of a people in games industry who I could reach at the time. I went to the UK neurodiversity channel. I shared it in some of like national Slacks, Discords. So I tried to get at least a subset of population, but I never asked people from which country it is, not to match the data. On the gender side, yeah, predominantly male, female and non-binary. So I think if I get a certain data set, it will actually average out to the amount of people working on the industry, like a ratio of people working in the industry. So according to the UK association, by 2022, it's 65% male, 25% female, and the rest is non-binary, at least for UK. So it's still already close to some population, but overrepresented, for example, in non-binary, because I was doing survey on Twitter. Roles, quite broad. As you can see, I was impressed. Quite unequal distribution among all the roles. It's 10, 12, 7, 8% on all the major roles that you can find in any game development company. I was pretty happy about that. I hope it will continue in the same survey. Its age when ADHD found is also interesting. Some before age 10, usually made by their parents, figuring out that their child might have it. Between age 10 and 18, it's usually like a middle school, high school, when the demands are getting higher. But most is usually by their own after age 18 and even farther after age 35. And especially it's probably from the recent ones when this discourse become more popular. One thing that ADHD is correlated with is different accompanying conditions. The most popular one is anxiety disorders, it's autism spectrum disorder, it's learning disorders. Do with it what you want. I also asked more different questions. This is just a selection of things. I think if you'll go to this survey, you'll find even more. But from the drugs that people consume, caffeine is the most popular one. And interestingly enough, this graph below is score from 1 to 5, where green is 4, how much effect caffeine has on your productivity at work. So as you can see, effect varies, but it's actually due to genetical difference on how effective caffeine is on you particularly. But it seems to be quite effective. And the satisfaction, like some people like, okay, I'll drink coffee, I feel okay, don't feel good, don't feel bad, just what I do. But for some, it's like extremely satisfying to have a cup of coffee and feel productive because, of course, caffeine stimulates some of the things, especially when you're not medicated. Interesting stats for tobacco, though. I just found it funny that almost 80% don't smoke at all, but those who do smoke every day, 83%, just says another time that tobacco is addictive, so never try or quit as soon as possible. Yeah, a question. Nicotine. There was, I think, a little explanation, but good point, because I vape, but it's not tobacco. There is a couple of concerns that people use with drugs. It's mostly health issues, legal risks, but it's also related to like a medication. There is like duplicating question to see how people treat those non-prescription stimulants, basically, and the prescription stimulants. But it's interesting data point nonetheless. Ways to overcome ADHD, and the popular one is noise-canceling headphones. It's leading with 52 votes. It's the game changer. If you haven't had those, get them for flights, for public transport, for work environments. Like everyone I surveyed universally agree. Checklist and notes, quite popular. Reminders, alarms, planners, apps, software, therapy, medication. Yeah, apps and software, actually, it's quite interesting. They're always there are specified apps for ADHD people that, well, subscription models and everything, they seem to be least effective.
Well, I just wanted to mention, because you didn't bring it up in other possibilities, but I've worked with Achille Interactive, and their Endeavor RX game is now available over the counter, and it's been approved by the FDA and has a CE mark, and has been shown to be about as effective as Adderall or Ritalin. But the two major side effects in the testing were occasional headaches and frustration. So for gamers who are interested in treating it, I highly recommend checking that out.
Absolutely. By the way, I want to, I will keep this presentation up. You can access those slides at any time. I will add the link to the survey now that I know that it will be just easier. So, and let's add the link to that one too. Please give to me and we'll just do it right away. So, one thing that I missed, challenges and barriers at work. This is important to talk with your supervisors, to your managers, and this is the most popular one, and lack of consistency and discipline in yourself to consistently pursue those goals, to consistently use those tools. And even though I have noise canceled headphones at work, I sometimes forget to wear them. The least ones is a lack of support or acceptance. It's side effects and drawbacks or medicine you're using. It's lack of access, affordability, or awareness or knowledge, either for you yourself or the people you work with. So just to give you a few tips and tricks. In the end of this survey, I asked people to share some of the things that they do. It's a really emotional thing to read, because of course anonymously people share kinds of stories out there. I'm still not sure. That's why I want to share this survey rather personally for purposes of investigation, not for curiosity, because but let's see, let's discuss, maybe I'll change my mind. But some of those are things that people find really helpful, and I myself can really agree with loads of coffee. I have 4 to 6 cups of coffee a day at work. I don't feel affected, just a bit threatened on my life side expectancy. It's 15-minute prep time, especially for the meetings. Write down what you want to achieve going into the meeting. Get 15 minutes after the meeting. Write down what you actually achieved. If there's still any questions you want to do, what are the next steps? Put them in a calendar. Plan as much as possible for yourself in the future, in a moment. Take notes. Yet again, I will not stop to repeat. Lists of lists. I organize my notes in OneNote by Microsoft. I have different notebooks for different parts of my life: family, travel, business. I have different pages and sub-pages. It's quite a tree structure, but I can access it at any time and find out what's the password for my home Wi-Fi, or what was the outcomes of this meeting, anywhere and even offline. It's flex working hours. If you have a luxury to have those, try to use them. If you don't feel like it, it might be the best. Repetitive music, going to the gym, physical activities is the one that I do the least. Probably should try it. Get a notepad that you take anywhere in case of the shortage of battery or internet. Try to keep things in sight. But yeah, you know how to read. I will just share the presentation because we're running out of time. One final thing that helped me a lot and that explains a lot. People with ADHD were prevalent in societies about 12,000 years ago, when we were not settled down and you had to go all day in certain direction in search of food and be really perceptive and not stay on one thing for too long or on one place for too long. And this is a sad truth that we are a legitimate part of the human population. We're not disabled per se. It's just a different world we found ourselves in. This book gives a lot of perspective on how to see your ADHD, how to see it in others. It's useful for your parents, for you as a parents, for your managers, and well, recommend everyone to at least try to read it or watch a summary. There is also a scientific basis for that, so it's also pretty cool. Thank you for your attention. Please scan, and let's give a microphone to that person behind.
Well, there is a couple of things. First of all, I think that if you have autism, you have ADHD, kinda. And I also think that my own studies and myself, also if you have ADHD, not everyone really have ADHD. Some people just collect it through the internet, collecting and promoting themselves. And I do think we need to notice for it and ourselves, and also in talks like this to promote that, like, hey, you diagnosed yourself, or even the people who diagnosed, as I have a diagnosis also in Israel and in here in Poland. It's kind of like, they saying things, but then I'm like, they didn't say that I'm on the spectrum, but I am on the spectrum. They not really giving you a good representation, in my opinion. But so there is some stuff on this. But my question mainly is, would it be okay for a manager, to a producer, to someone who team lead, to go openly and ask the people about them, about their mentality? Like, are you having a attention problem? Do you have, to try and build a situation to fit each one of the workforce?
I will say it's not a producer's task. It's human resources. It's a handbook. It's something where you try industry-wide to have a page where it says, if you feel you're a part of the neurodivergent people, we are able to provide accommodations for your condition. Talk with us, and then we'll figure out it with your manager, right? It should be not a bottom-up, but top-down approach to organizing the work for everyone, especially in bigger organization. At least that's how I see it. And of course, if you're friends with that person, it's cool if you're friends with your team, but I would not directly go and ask. I think each person should tell it. I will not start a Monday after this talk hey guys, who's neurodivergent here?
No,
who has ADHD?
I'm talking about more
let's figure it out.
to try and build a better work environment. Yeah. So I don't think that HR would even mostly hire, or most of the people falling
as I said, statistics shows, especially in the UK where they have the best data on it, 1 in 10 people in UK game industry has it. it correlates with population averages. So knowingly or not, you have to do this. If you're a 100 people team, you have 10 people who are likely to have it. But we are out of time. I need to free the space for our next speaker. So thank you again.